If 2023 would end right now, it would still be one of the best gaming years to date, but we of course have many more months to go, with even more bangers, including huge open world titles, free games, or ones that launch day one on Game Pass. I want to start with Alan Wake 2, that according to a lot of press was their favorite Summer Game Fest game because it does some very unique things. So on the surface it looks like another survival horror game. It's set 13 years after the original, and next to Alan we also play a new character, Zaga, who's unaware of these supernatural elements, which should be perfect for new players of the series as well. The game has a 50-50 split between those two characters, and this is where it gets interesting. You can choose to switch between them at given points in the story, but you don't have to. So you can try and get far as Ellen in the dark place, while then still being early with Saga as she explores an abandoned American village, or you could do it the other way around. Saga is also a detective, so piecing together evidence. There's an evidence board that took a lot of inspiration from True Detective. I think this could be a really great game. The game that might be able to beat Hogwarts Legacy as best-selling game of the year, not counting Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, that we of course know is coming in November. No, but Spider-Man 2 will of course be massive. I really liked the story trailer they dropped that showed that we will still get cool behind the mask stories as well, next to the Spider-Man action. I loved the character model upgrades, hints at how far Peter will be consumed, and the overall enemy variety we saw. I just hope that there are still some surprises in the story that we don't see coming. I really hope that this will be Insomniac's 90+ Metacritic game, up there with God of War. Another big Sony exclusive that will launch this year is Helldivers 2, that changed the top-down view for a more approachable third-person one. It still includes the same chaotic co-op action though, where you have to fight hordes of alien creatures, which sounds easier than it is. Friendly fire is always on, so be careful for your teammates, but the enemies can hit hard too. But dying is part of the gameplay loop, because they will immediately spawn in as a new Helldiver and be right back into the action. Equipment plays a bigger role this time, with heavier armors giving you more resistance, while lighter armors increasing your movement speed and decreasing enemy detection. There are many different guns and even team weapons, where one person carries the gun and the other person the ammunition to assist with the reloading. Now, if you follow the channel closely, then you're likely up to date on Assassin's Creed Mirage, right? After 8 years, Ubisoft is finally making a more traditional action-adventure title again, with the length comparable to the first AC and a map similar to Unity's Paris. It will still feel a lot like Valhalla though, as it's built with those engine tools, but this time it's way more stealth-focused, where melee combat is really your last resort. We will have to sneak and steal to gain intel on the important Order members we have to kill, but at the core is a story about Basim, who after being rescued joins the Hidden Ones, although might question their beliefs later, while also struggling with nightmares of his own that will slowly consume him. I will only play Mortal Kombat 1 when they drop Omni-Man, Peacemaker, and Homelander, my favorite anti-hero characters, as DLC. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Mortal Kombat 1, as the name suggests, of course, is a full reboot of the story in a new universe, but still with the familiar characters that now have completely different rivalries. They also added a brand new feature that adds a ton of extra depth to the gameplay, which is the cameo system. So next to your playable character, you now also select a cameo fighter from a different roster that can help you out with combos and moves. Ever since the first Avatar movie in 2009, I wanted a big budget AAA game that lets us explore that beautiful world, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora promises to do that. It's set in a completely new region of Pandora that looks beautiful. We can explore it on foot, but also go faster on the back of a dire horse, or of course fly on the back of a Benji. It looks great, but I'm still not sure about the first-person shooter combat, with the so far very limited enemy variety and uninteresting brown RDA camps. I really hope it turns out well. I'm just not convinced by what they showed at Ubisoft Forward. I also still think it will be pushed out of 2023. Just the feeling based on how Ubisoft is promoting the game. And of course, let me know which 2023 games you're looking forward to so far. I got way more to go over. These videos cost a ton of time to make, so consider giving a like. That would really help me out. And subscribe, because we'll of course cover these games here on the channel. There are still many open world games incoming, with Atlas Fallen being pretty close. And I think it looks solid, with the traversal and fights against the massive creatures totally being the highlight so far. We can also use the sand to complete puzzles in the open open world, earn new weaponry, there's transmog, and we should be able to customize our playstyle with over 100 passive bonuses to apply. You can also team up with a friend. I just hope that the story is interesting as well. I'm not worried about the story in Baldur's Gate 3, the long in development RPG made by the Divinity Original Sin developers that is all about role-playing in the world of Dungeons and Dragons and having your choices impact the story. There are also a ton of choices to make in terms of your own character with 11 races and 12 classes or even 46 subclasses available in total. There are also over 600 spells and actions to master in the turn-based combat. Like, this is a major game that you can explore alone or in co-op. It has a very positive rating during the early access, but will now launch in full with a PlayStation 5 release following in September. September will also see the long-awaited $30 Cyberpunk 2077 DLC Phantom Liberty taking place during the campaign of the main game, and has us check out a new region called Dogtown with Johnny Silverhand by our side. We will get way more background on Keanu's character, by the way, but also meet new characters like Special Agent Solomon Reed, played by Idris Elba. But also the main game will be completely overhauled with more impactful perks and a better skill tree. Finally, good police AI, more enemy variety. It really sounds like a huge update that should also be coming to anyone, even without owning the DLC. Prediction, I can see them like launch the game as a new boxed copy on PS5 and Xbox Series as well. Either way, I totally expect another renaissance for the game before they move on to the sequel. Not really open world, but Lords of the Fallen still has open areas with quests to find, and this is a full reboot of the franchise that on the surface looks a lot like Dark Souls, but with a twist, because there are two versions of the same level. When you die in Axiom, you reawaken in the same spot, but in Umbra, the land of the dead. You can also sacrifice one of your 2 lives to go to this other realm or use the Umbral lamp. I love the enemy variety we've seen so far. Should have quite some character customization as well, with different classes to choose from. I'm totally keeping an eye out for this one. But of course, the biggest open world game on the Xbox and PC side will be Starfield. It seems to be much more than Fallout in space, with actual dogfights and the ability to infiltrate and steal an enemy ship. But I'm just mostly looking forward to getting lost in the gameplay loop, like picking up a quest in the impressive and varied looking settlements, then taking my spaceship to a nearby planet, exploring that planet a bit, taking out some space pirates with great looking shooting, and getting some new loot in the process, and then rinse and repeat. Like, I really hope that Bethesda can deliver on the huge promises that they made in that direct, because then we have something special on our hands. And it's really the first major AAA Day 1 Game Pass release, which would mean that a ton of people will play it day 1. We'll touch on more Game Pass Day 1 titles, but first I want to look at some free games still coming in 2023. Starting with XDeviant, that already got more popular than I expected. It's basically a 6v6 free-to-play Call of Duty, but with factions based on Ubisoft characters. It shoots great, the maps look in particular really cool, and they have a pretty good post-launch roadmap with a new map and a new weapon every month, and a new faction every season. A free-to-play game I heard good things about and that I totally want to try is Wayfinder, where you can play one of the many characters with their own abilities, give them different weapons, and then explore the open highland zone to fight bosses or do special public events. There's a hub town where you can upgrade your character, but you will also be going into a lot of dungeons that you can tweak yourselves in terms of the items that you want to get out of it and how strong the enemies are, and also even how often they spawn, which is a pretty unique idea. Really hope this turns out well. Star Wars Hunters has been in the works for a while. It's a 4v4 PvP based arena combat game where you play either familiar Force users or a Mandalorian, but it also has more unique characters like 2 Jawas in a trench coat. Yes, really. There are currently 4 different playable modes, and it's sadly only coming to mobile and Switch so far. We also got the first Descendant that immediately catches the eye because of the graphics, powered by Unreal Engine 5. It's a third-person looter shooter with up to 4-player co-op, and a big focus on mobility, with a grappling hook being part of your kit. And yeah, we totally see the trend here, because this also character focused, with 2 brand new ones that have unique abilities already in development. But the biggest free game, I think, will be The Finals, which had a close test recently, a lot of positive buzz, and it's from ex-Battlefield makers, which we clearly see in the level of destruction that is possible in each map. 4 teams of 3 have to go battle it out to secure loot and stop other people from stealing it. it, and again, I think this could be the next big thing. There are also big new games that come on every platform, but that also launch day one on Game Pass, like the Pinocchio Bloodborne-inspired action game Lies of P. I did not have time to check out the demo, but I heard from people that did that it was actually really good. Like, Sony does not seem to care about the Bloodborne franchise, so it's cool that someone else is making a spiritual successor instead. Payday 3 will be day one on Game Pass as well, while of course also launching on other platforms. Here you with up to 4 players try to rob a bank. One of the big new things is that movement has seen a huge overhaul compared to the previous game, with sliding and mantling now included. And you can now also trade hostages with first responders to delay the arrival of the actual cops and force. Although the more hostages you have, the better the rewards at the end. We only have New York as a location at the start, but post-launch we should also expect other locations. Other day one Game Pass titles that totally deserve a shout out: City Skylines 2, which lets you build way bigger cities with up to 150 map tiles instead of 9 from the original, according to some leaked achievements. Forza Motorsport 2023 will of course also finally release, with big changes to the progression system and the fact that the AI will now race way more like professional drivers, to just name a few improvements. Then we also got Warhammer 40k that's already out on PC, should finally make its way over to Xbox, and also a new Persona 5 Tactica spin-off will be day one on Game Pass. And there are still many other games that I think deserve a mention, so I want to quickly go over them. We got the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection with the first 3 games coming in October, a brand new Alone in the Dark game with the guy from Stranger Things. If mech suits are more your thing, then you're probably looking forward to the fact that From Software is bringing back Armored Core after 10 years. The game just got glowing previews praising the combat, boss battles, and amount of customization. Like, Armored Core 6 will probably be big. Even though we've only seen this like cinematic trailer, the VR game from Assassin's Creed should still come this year for Oculus. We got Immortals of Avium that looks kinda cool in the recent gameplay overview trailer. I hope it turns out to be a fun campaign. And there's also a new crew game that I'm sure some people are looking forward to. And they just announced that Banishers Ghost of New Eden from Donut behind Vampire, Life is Strange, and Remember Me is coming November 7th. I think that just the idea is pretty cool. This guy wants to bring back his wife that is now like sort of a ghost. And to do that, they would likely have to sacrifice citizens, so we can likely make choices. Do we want to do that to bring back our wife, or do we save like lives of innocents? It's a third-person action game. Again, I think it looks awesome. Before I see the comments, yes, the day before the zombie survival open world game should also be out this year, but it looks more fake than real, as we discussed before. Like, what the heck is this trailer with the Lamborghini in like this zombie post-apocalyptic world? And it's not even up on Steam anymore. So again, I don't think this game is real. Don't get your hopes up. I know some people are. I think the biggest takeaway is that Ubisoft is leaving money on the table by not making a Division game like this with zombies. I'm just saying. Again, let me know which 2023 game you're looking forward to the most. A like on the video would of course really help me out. Subscribe for coverage on these games. Check out my previous video on Spider-Man 2 by clicking on the screen, and I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.